Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode 287. I am Brennan. UFC Fight Night, Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria prelims, right? So this is going to be the Neil Magny, Phil Rowe breakdown, as well as the rest of the fights on the prelim card. Real quick before we get started, if you do like these kinds of things, subscribe to the channel so the next video is coming out. I'm covering the UFC, Bellator, ONE FC. I cover all this stuff, but I also have been covering the Ultimate Fighter. So if you're following that series, I am breaking down each episode. So follow me for that. Cool. Let's get started. All right, Neil Magny versus Phil Rowe. Real quick. Also, if you're looking for a if you're looking for a specific fight, the timestamps are down below, so you can go to any one you want. Real quick. I normally give my review. Right, so if this is the first time you're here, I appreciate you. The main card's in the last video. So I want to put this a nice way because I don't want to insult fighters. This was a slog. Let's put it that way, right? So the prelims are kind of hard to get through. Yeah, this was not there. There were some highlights and there were some things that made it a little bit more fun to watch, but if you're not a hardcore fan, this is probably a skipper. Okay, unless you're really interested in a specific fighter on the prelims or their trajectory or something like that. Obviously, hop in, watch that fight. But for the most part, if this is a from the start to the finish type of prelim, it's not. It's really not, and it's not that the fights were so bad to watch. It's just that there wasn't a ton of action, so it became a lot of waiting for something to happen. And when you're taking notes, there's not much to say. There's not much to write down. I mean, yes, there's little intricacies in every little thing that they're doing, but really, what am I going to write down? Oh, he dug for the underhook. Oh, he dug for the underhook. Oh, they're hand fighting. Yeah, I could write that. But the idea isn't to write down every single thing that happens. It's to write down the significant things that happen. And when nothing significant happens, you don't have a lot to write down. Case in point, Neil Magny versus Phil Rowe. Striking numbers here, folks. Real quick, because, again, I keep saying real quick. Before we go into the round-by-round breakdown, let's just look at some totals. First round, 16 total strikes landed combined. Second round, 13 total strikes combined. Last round, 34. Woof. Woohoo. They were swinging in that last round. So really it came down to the clinch battle and positional control. So Rowe was pressing him to the fence right away. Magny flipped position, and they got the back body lock for a second. Nice right hands from Rowe as he's chasing Magny down. Magny gets dirty and lands some uppercuts as he walks Rowe down. Close round with a ton of clinching. I leaned toward Magny for the bunch of punches that he landed. Right, there was a moment in there where he landed a pop, 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 pop. It's close. I gave this to Magny. There is no, by the way, I would say almost no scorecard that's unacceptable. No 10-8s. No 10-8s. If someone puts a 10-8 in there, then that's an unacceptable card. But literally any one of these rounds could be scored either way. So any scorecard is valid. Any scorecard. There is no robbery here, guys. Any scorecard is valid. It really comes down to what you value, what you saw, and how you graded the impact of the minimal amount of strikes there were. Okay? So if you look at the control time in this first round, 1:59 to 1:41. So that's why I counted that as a wash, right? I said that's a wash. I felt like Magny did more damage when he did do damage and landed some more strikes, so I gave it to him. If you gave this to Rowe, I totally understand. He did outstrike him 11-5, so Rowe did land more in this round. But if you look at the head strikes here, 6-5, there wasn't that big of a difference. It was the leg strikes, and those weren't so crazy. It's not like he wasn't kicking the shit out of his legs, trying to make him not walk or anything, stop him from walking or anything like that. They were just slappers. So real close round, I gave it to Magny. Looking at the striking numbers, I could totally give it to Rowe. Just looking at this on the outside and knowing that what I watched, if I had looked at the striking numbers while I was watching the fight, I probably would have given this round to Rowe. But that's just not how I saw it when I watched it live. Second round, Rowe starts the round with some decent shots, pressure, gets a standing backpack position, but when they break the clinch, Magny is the one pressing forward, landing some strikes. Some good knees from Magny at the end of the round. Another close one, right? Rowe didn't land anything after the clinch started, but Magny didn't land much either. And I wanted to say Rowe in this round. Looking at the striking numbers, 6-7 in favor of Magny, but that can back control time, right? So it's again, look at the cage control time, minute 56 for Magny, 2 minutes and 3 seconds for Rowe. So again, essentially a wash. But I will tell you that having the backpack position is a much more dominant position than anything that Magny had in this round. All other things, obviously he landed more total strikes, 29-10, but. Oh, and that's in that first round. They counted. Okay, so I'm not crazy. 37-16 total strikes in that first round. That might have swayed my opinion. But if you look at the second round, I gave this one to Rowe. I felt like he was in stronger position. He landed enough damage when he did land damage that he took this one. Last round here, Magny takes a right hand, and then he starts walking Rowe down and landing multiple shots. Magny now doing a good job staying active when Rowe is pausing. Magny wins this. I just felt like he was more active in this close fight. I felt like this last round he was more active. He was total strikes wise 43-25. Normally I don't bring those up because they're not significant strikes, but the significant strikes are even 17-17. Right? So what are you supposed to do here? Again, clinch time or control time, 36 seconds to 54 seconds in favor of Rowe. Not a lot to go off of. Right? And, Magny gets a split decision win here. Let's look at the scorecards. Let's see. I'm telling you, I even though I don't like Christopher Lee or Derek Clearly, they weren't on this one, but or Christopher Lee was, but even though I don't like him, I'm not going to begrudge him because he didn't agree with my scorecard. I think his card is defensible, right? He gave the first 2 rounds to Rowe. That's defensible. Last round to Magny, absolutely. Let's look at Barry Luxembourg. First 2 rounds to Magny, last round to Rowe. Complete opposite scorecard. Also valid. Saul D'Amato, first round to Rowe, last 2 rounds to Magny. So he split, yeah. If I had to go, you know what? No, like I said, all 3 judges' scorecards are totally different. They're all valid. There's nothing wrong here. It sucks for the losing fighter, but hey, it's the way it is when you play it that close. And we're supposed to grade on something that's subjective. We don't have an objective measurement, and when you don't give anything that looks subjectively more powerful or impactful, then we got nothing to score on, man. Great win for Magny. The list just continues for him. Randy Brown versus Wellington Turman. This fight, these were a slog. This was kind of like a touch battle for most of it. It wasn't that exciting. I mean, it was more exciting, I guess, than the feature prelim. But Brown is using the long reach and the jab. Turman is landing low kicks, but he isn't in range, and he's for the hands that Brown's landing. Brown's pokes him in the eye, and he's dismissive of Turman, and then he knees him in the nuts, and again, he's shaking his head. I've never been a fan of Randy Brown. I don't like his attitude while he's in there, and I don't like his attitude after fights. He's very dismissive, and he acts like he's better than everybody, but he's not. Like, the dude, he has competitive fights with not mediocre fighters, but, lower level fighters. That's kind of where Brown is. He's got all these gifts and all these talents, but he doesn't apply them properly, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe this is just who he is. Maybe he's just a middle of the road fighter. Brown pokes him in the eye, like I said. Then Brown with a flying knee to the chest and a body lock takedown to end the round. His volume is distance management won it for me, but just barely. So if you look at the striking numbers here, 31-25, he didn't blow him out, and he did win that round for sure. Turman finding his way inside, finding the left hook, not bad. Brown controlling the clinch and getting the end of the round, getting it back for a couple seconds. So getting it back for a couple seconds. Again, not a very active round. 15-12, not a lot of strikes here. A lot of moving around, a lot of positional stuff. Randy Brown in the clinch, 2 minutes and 21 seconds of control time to Wellington Turman's 1 minute and 17 seconds. Right, a lot of clinch work here, and Brown did get the better of it, so he wins this one. Last round here, right back in the clinch, Turman controlling it for a minute. Brown lands a decent combo, but Turman lands a couple elbows in the clinch and busts Brown up bad. Brown is busted up, but he, 1 round is not a fight win. This is Turman's round, even though the striking numbers are dead even, 18-35 for both fighters here. the damage clearly went to Turman. It wasn't even close. This last round, clearly Turman's. Looking at the scorecards here, all three judges saw it that exact way. This wasn't the good call from all three judges. No controversy there. All right. This was one of the more exciting fights on the prelims. Let's see here. Mateusz Rebecki versus Loik Radzhabov. All right. This was fun to watch. It wasn't like a back and forth brawl, but it was fun. Rebecki looked real good. Rebecki landing some heavy inside low kicks. Radzhabov with his back to the fence. Rebecki was landing the jab and the straight right. I'm going to say his name a lot because he was pretty much the only one doing anything. You can look at the striking numbers here, 28-10 in that first round. Rebecki got the takedown in the first round, straight rights to the body. He timed a leg kick and put Radzhabov down, got on top and got a crucifix and ended the round that way. Obviously a 10-9 for him. Second round here, 26-9 for the striking numbers. Rebecki landing a hard low kick. Radzhabov can't stand, and he's leaning back against a cage. He was kicking the shit out of his legs. Rebecki landing kicks to either the other leg now, dropping Radzhabov yet again. And then Rebecki landed a huge left hand that put Radzhabov down, and it's over. So the referee did step in relatively fast, and Radzhabov was protesting, but he wasn't able to move, and there was nothing about that looked competitive anymore. And yes, he always has a puncher's chance, but I'm not big. I think that was a good stoppage. Gillian Robertson taking on Tabatha Ricci. Boy, another boring one, guys. Now the numbers look higher in this, but look what was really going on. Look what was really going on here. 29 of 80 to 12 of 48. 31 of 114. 36 of 86. 40 of 121. Holy moly. Ricci landing some low kicks and Robertson landing a lead elbow. Ricci catches a kick and gets the takedown. They get right back up. Ricci's quicker and throwing a lot of volume out there, even if there isn't much power. There's no power on anything that she was doing. Ricci got the takedown, but didn't want to engage, gets back up. Robertson just not landing enough in this first round. Obviously, like I said, 29-12 in favor of Ricci. Robertson really just didn't do anything. And then Ricci just touched her and stayed on the outside, stayed super safe. Robertson not able to get close to Ricci. Ricci's bouncing around, staying on the outside. The second round is not a good fight. All right, Ricci was not committing to any of her strikes. She was staying on the outside, and Robertson, it takes two to tango, they say. So, Robertson didn't bull rush. She didn't rush in there, didn't try to make it as dirty as she could have, and she allowed Ricci to just stay on the outside and touch her. They did not really get into it and dig into each other. Robertson, I think, landed probably the hardest shot of the entire fight with that elbow in the first round, but the rest of it was just tap, 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 tap. Looking at the striking numbers here, she did outstrike her in this round, according to the statisticians, 36-31. I didn't see it that way. I thought Ricci won this round as well. And then the last round here, Gillian gets a body lock takedown, but they get right back up, and then that's it. The whole round looked like every round looked like every other round in this fight. 40-28 for striking numbers for in favor of Ricci. Now, looking at the scorecards here, I am a little curious to see if anybody gave that second round. Interesting. So Barry Luxembourg gave the first round to Robertson. Saul D'Amato gave the second round. The second round makes sense. First round, I don't know about that, but it's funny though if both those guys combine their scorecards, and this could go the other way. And Christopher Lee, of course, all three. He refuses to agree with anybody else. I mean, that's how I scored it, but it's just funny. All right. This fight was actually pretty good too. I don't want to be too harsh on all of them. Joshua Van versus Zhalgas Zhumagulav. Good fight. Zhalgas was leaning hard and landing a hard hook, using the jab well, using the low kicks, and then slipping the chops from Van early. Right, this is not last. The pressure from Zhalgas is he's mixing it in with strikes really well. Zhalgas keeping the pressure against the fence, getting the body lock takedown. Zhalgas leading the dance pretty much this entire round. Looking at the striking numbers, 26-25 for Zhumagulav. I thought it was further away than that, but he obviously had some control time, and that separated it for me. I don't think Van landed anything so significant in this round to outdo what Zhumagulav did. Second round here, Van landing a few hard low kicks to start the round. Van is control of the cage, now working his jab, following up with the straights and the hooks. Van was landing a hard right head. He landed a hard right head kick, rocked Zhalgas, but they are going back and forth. Van was so close to finishing it in the second round here. Zhalgas is finding moments. The round is coming to an end, and Van takes a round he just landed so much more, 51-38, and that huge head kick obviously put him out in front. Great round for Van. So 19-19 going to the third round for me. Van taking the front foot, starting this round, more conventional boxing. It's just so slick, right? His conventional boxing is slick, and he's landing the pretty strikes, whereas Zhalgas was swinging things, and he's very, what I would consider MMA striking, right? It's kind of sloppy, lots of openings, but it works for MMA unless you're just striking, which is what this turned out to be. Zhalgas was swinging with the lead hook too wide, Van stepping inside of it, and it doesn't land. So every time Zhalgas would throw that big left hook, Van would just step inside, and then the forearm would hit, Van in the shoulder, which is nothing. Van's closing out the round with a bunch of right hands. Beautiful round for Van. 44-39 for significant strikes. Looking at the scorecards. Okay. Barry Luxembourg gave the fight to Zhumagulav. Could you give that last round to him? I don't think so, but I guess you could. I don't think that's the worst scorecard I've ever seen. It's not how I saw it. Luckily, the other two judges were on the ball with that one. All right, maybe I was too harsh on the prelims. Some of them are fun to watch. This one was fun just because it was so sloppy. Chepe Mariscal versus Trevor Peak. Peak, obviously, the Tennessee boy who has that thick accent and likes to just throw caution to the wind and just start throwing hooks. They trade kicks. Peak's trying to end the fight with every single shot. That's a pattern. Peak is just throwing hooks, and they are brawling. Huge knee lands from Mariscal. Peak is wobbled, but still throwing. Mariscal with the takedown gets it back. Craziness, and it's just so much. This one is one of those ones that's hard to describe. You got to go watch this fight. It's just back and forth brawling, and then Peak gets tired at the end of it, and he starts throwing stupid shit and gets beat up. But 3 hard left hands land from Mariscal, and then he gets a takedown. Mariscal wins that first round for sure. 26-24 in favor of Mariscal for the striking numbers. Obviously, I gave it to him 10-9. Mariscal gets a takedown in the second round. Again from the clinch, and Mariscal lands some. He took some body shots, but he kicks the legs out of Peak yet again. He ends up on top. Peak is alive and coming forward, but he is down definitely 2 rounds. Looking at the striking numbers, 13-12 in favor of Peak, but Mariscal just landed so much more in here, and he obviously had that control time, 2 minutes and 33 seconds of control time, so Peak did not do enough. Last round here, Peak landed an uppercut, a big right hand, but falls into the clinch yet again. He just kept overextending. You guys, he's really sloppy. He's very much like oh man, I forget that guy's name. But he has a lot of similarities to guys who come in who they brawl and they have their moments, but unless they pick up their skills, they're never gonna make it past the entry level. They might get into some fun fights in the higher level, and they could still finish people there who want to brawl with them. But anytime someone comes in like Mariscal and just decides to be patient, take his time when he can, pick his shots, and wait till Peak gets tired, he's just gonna outpoint him, and then in this case, just beat the shit out of him. Great fight from Mariscal. Looked great. I had him winning 30-27. Maybe I spoke too soon. Jamall Emmers versus Jenkins. Yeah, I guess there's just some fights on this card on the early ones where it was just real hard to get through. Some of them weren't. Jenkins is pressuring, going with the low kicks. Emmers is countering well, finding openings as Jenkins enters. Emmers was using poking single strikes and trying to keep the distance and exit off the fence. Jenkins is having an issue with the distance. He's also landing shots, but Emmers is getting out in front with volume, in my opinion. Now, if I look at this, it doesn't look that close. Nice left hands from Jenkins. Emmers taps his own chin, saying like that didn't do anything. I hate when people do that shit. It's a really fun fight. Emmers landed more, did a better job with distance management in this first round for me. Looking at the scorecard, it's not as much as I thought. I thought Emmers landed more. 21-20 is the numbers. I thought Jack Jenkins landed significantly less strikes, but I guess he didn't. So I still scored this first round for Emmers. I stand by it. Second round here, Jenkins landing a hard low kick. Emmers tender on that lead leg now, landing more, and then Jenkins lands even a few more to that lead leg. Emmers still landing with that long reach. Jenkins focusing on the left hook and the right low kick. They go back and forth the whole round. Emmers still up on the volume, which apparently he wasn't. Then Jenkins could win that. Oh, I said Jenkins could win that one, but I didn't see him landing enough damage. I guess I was wrong. It's the leg kicks that really made the difference. I didn't count, so Emmers was up on the headshots, but only by one. I might have been wrong on this one. This is on me. Yeah, I didn't see it. I thought Emmers outstruck him in here. That's why I gave him the first 2 rounds. In the last round, it was more of the same. Emmers went for a takedown, stayed on top for 2 minutes. Not more of the same, but I also scored it for him. Emmers went for the headlock, then he falls to his back, but reverses it. I gave it him this last round too. I thought he had he had 4 minutes of control time in this last round. There was not a lot of striking. So looking at the scorecards here, yeah, Christopher Lee and Saul D'Amato gave that first and second round to Jack Jenkins. Emmers is probably going to be pissed, rightfully so, because I thought he won. But that being said, if you look at the striking numbers and you go back and you just look at it analytically and not with your eyes, maybe they did a better job than we did. Maybe. Or the stats could be wrong. All right, and for a short notice fight, Cody Brundage versus Cedricus Dumas. Not a lot of striking in this one. A whole lot of sloppy. This is why it started. It started out real boring. So Brundage with a double leg and goes for the guillotine. It ends up on bottom. Make note of that. That happens again. Brundage uses an attack off the back to escape and get on top, which was awesome. And then Brundage attempted a guillotine again and fell to his back. 10-9 for Dumas for laying on top. Dumas landed 11 strikes. Look at these numbers. 11-1, 4-0, 2-2 striking numbers. A whole lot of grappling, but you want to talk. This was not effective grappling. They laid around for a long time. Both guys just standing around for over a minute in the second round. Then Brundage goes for a takedown. Dumas gets the back. Brundage does nothing, and Dumas just sitting on the back. 20-18. There's nothing there, dude. Nothing. 4-0 for striking numbers. Grappling, he had 3 minutes and 41 seconds of control time, but that's all he had. He barely attempted a submission. I don't even think he didn't. I don't think he officially got a submission attempt until no. And they didn't even give Brundage the submission attempt for the guillotines in the first round, which is bullshit, but whatever. Brundage in on another takedown attempt, gets it again. Yeah, he gets him to the cradle, and then Brundage went for a guillotine again, and he lost it again, and then he's on his back for the rest of the match. 2 minutes and 53 seconds of control time for Dumas. Talk about just absolute, I don't even know what the word is. Like, just the lack of awareness or ability to adapt. He's just like, no, I'm getting a guillotine. And they said, that Brundage took this on short notice. And he said that Dumas was one of the few guys that he would fight on short notice. And the commentary made some statements about it, saying like, well, obviously he wasn't expecting a tough challenge. And that's kind of what happened here. He got more than he was expecting, and he just got tired. And I think his game plan went to shit of get him out there early and guillotine him. So he's like, get him out there late and guillotine him. It didn't work. I feel bad for the dude for doing that, but hey, you live and you learn. All right, that is it for the prelims. Like I said, if you didn't watch these, there are some good fights on here, but there was a lot. Dude, the long fight, they felt long. this felt like a long time watching some of these fights. 15 minutes of nothing for a lot of them. So if you like this kind of stuff, subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. Like I said, I'm covering The Ultimate Fighter. I do every UFC event. I do PFL. I'm covering that. I'll be covering the playoffs of the PFL. All that stuff. If you like those things, subscribe so you know the next video is coming out. I'd super appreciate it. It helps me out as well. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Love y'all.